Hello there and welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk. Now, a long time ago on my channel, back when I first started, I did this crazy task of deciding to go through the whole Bond franchise, except I never quite did it. I stopped at the Dalton years. I did the Dalton years, so I reviewed the two Timothy Dalton movies, but I didn't do Pierce Brosnan stuff or Daniel Craig stuff, and a lot of time has passed, but I do want to go back and do them. So I am going to review both the Pierce Brosnan Bonds and the Daniel Craig Bonds in time for the new Bond film, but I wanted to do a bit of a recap on what I had already done years ago. Blimey, it really is years ago now, with the Connery and the Roger Moore Bond eras. So I thought what I'd do is I will do two ranking videos. The first of which is this one, and it is a Sean Connery James Bond ranking. So I'm going to take the seven Connery Bonds and I'm going to rank them. Now there are six officially when you look at the MGM Bond films, but I am going to include Never Say Never Again in with this bunch, just because I reviewed it way back when, and let's face it, it's still a Bond film. It's Sean Connery playing James Bond, and so whatever. I'm gonna rank all seven, and then I will do the same with the Roger Moore Bond films. That will bring me up to date, bring you guys up to speed with where I stand on them. And then we will get into the Pierce Brosnan years. I will start reviewing those movies. As is customary, we'll start with the worst and work our way to the best. Here is my ranking of the Connery Bonds. At number 7 is indeed Never Say Never Again. Yes, not being an official Bond film in the sense that it wasn't made by MGM, it does show quite a lot. This film looks cheap. In places it looks really nasty. Now it is actually a remake of sorts of Fundable. So the writer, one of the writers of Fundable, there was a bit of a very long and drawn out court case in which he tried to get the rights to continue making Bond films and this, that and the other, and in the end the court settled with him being able to take things that he'd brought to the script for Thunderball, which meant that essentially if he wanted to make another Bond film, he was pretty much tied into just remaking Thunderball with his story elements. So that's exactly what he did, and he brought Connery back. So Connery essentially making the same film again doesn't make a right lot of sense to me personally. You know, if I was an actor and spent many years away from a role, would I come back just only to remake a film I've already done and done better, I might add? It's got a few things going for it. Kim Basinger is quite good. I can't remember the name of the actor off the top of my head, but the actor they get to play the main villain, I think I prefer him in this than the guy who plays him in Thunderball. But beyond that, it just comes off as a cheaper kind of workman-like version of Thunderball. The stunts aren't quite as great. The action sequences aren't quite as great. There's some annoying characters in it. Rowan Atkinson appears in this in a role that essentially would lead him to creating Johnny English. This is the precursor to Johnny English, really. But I don't like Johnny English, and I certainly don't want to see him in a Bond film. So it ain't great. It's not one I'll be revisiting, to be quite honest. So there you go. At number 6 for me, and this is a controversial choice, I know people are going to hurl all kinds of insults at me for this one, it's From Russia with Love. I know a lot of people consider this to be like top tier Bond. I have tried to get through this film a few times, and every time I've fallen asleep, usually around the section where the gypsies are fighting, which in and of itself is not a great scene. The way it's choreographed is just terrible. It's like these women growling at each other. It looks hokey as hell. I find this film boring, like really boring. All the action is kind of pushed towards the end of the film. So like the last act is Bond essentially cleaning house, and in many ways it feels a bit rushed, like he's just going around and taking out the three main villains that we've seen throughout the movie, and it's just like, yeah, it's all just suddenly pushed into this tight little kind of 20-minute section in which Bond, takes them out one by one. There's a really good train fight. Like I say, for its day, it was kind of like the Bourne fight scene of its day. It was really kinetic and well paced. It's very well shot. I liked it, but it's just not enough to save me from the boredom of this film. Again, a lot of people love it. I don't get it. I sit there and I wait for something to happen. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of espionage stuff, which I know sounds ridiculous of me to complain about, considering this is a spy movie. But with Bond, I expect action. I expect espionage, but I expect action as well. And I just feel like this film plods its way along for like an hour and a half before finally delivering some action set pieces. Not for me. At number 5, we've got Diamonds Are Forever. For me, this doesn't particularly feel like a Bond film, and I think it's because of the Las Vegas setting, which I don't like. It doesn't scream Bond to me. You know, when I think Bond, I think exotic locations. I think palm trees and blue skies and blue oceans and things like that. You know, exotic kind of Hawaiian type islands. No, Las Vegas. We go to Las Vegas. There's a couple of set pieces which are quite nice. There's a fight sequence in a lift which is handled really well. There's a really good sequence in which Bond scales this building that kind of... It is quite nail-biting, considering the time this was shot. But, yeah, it's just... The story isn't great. I don't think Blofeld is used particularly well. There's this whole kind of cloning kind of subplot thing where you're just like, what, it's not good, and the climax is a bit of a damp squib, to be honest. The Bond girl in it is a bit dumb, a bit kind of ditzy, but not in a good way. It's a bit of a mess of a film, and there's a couple of villains in it that it's kind of alluded to that they may be gay. Well, they are gay. I think that they're portrayed as like a gay couple, but it's just, they could have gone to interesting places with these two guys, but they don't in the end. They're just kind of dispensed with in a bit of a jokey way at the end of the film. It's a bit of a mess, really. It's not top tier Bond. It's not unwatchable. You know, there's things in it that entertain me, but I just feel like, this franchise is capable of so much more when it's on its A game, and this definitely is not it. Number 4 is You Only Live Twice. Now this is getting there. This is starting to be like good Bond. I can't quite call this a good film, just because there's a lot of issues with it, not least of which the changing of Bond into a Japanese person, apparently. I'm sure that flew well enough back in the day, but it doesn't fly when you watch it now. It just comes off as incredibly racist and stupid, really stupid. There's no way that Connery is passing as a Japanese man. There's some great set pieces. There's a really brilliantly built set. The volcano set piece at the end, just that whole set is amazing. Just the work that is done to create that is absolutely brilliant. There's some good fight sequences in it and some nice action beats. Overall, just a few muddy water spaces in the film where you're a bit like, okay, it's dated, really, is the main word I would use to describe this film. It's not dated particularly well from a cultural standpoint. Some of the things that they put in it are they just don't really fly today. So, but beyond that, if they could have tidied up some of their moments and or just dispensed with them altogether, we'd have ourselves a pretty decent Bond film. I do think that this is probably the best that we get of Blofeld. I do think that Blofeld, as a villain throughout these Connery Bond films, was never quite used to his full potential. But I think here, this is probably about the best we get with regards to Blofeld in the Connery years, that is. So yeah, props to Donald Pleasance, I guess. At number 3 is Fundable. So I quite like this one. There's a few sequences in it that drag a bit, and it's mostly because they're shot underwater, and it just like back in the day, films where they shot underwater, they just kind of, I'd switch off. I'd go with the bubbles and just start falling asleep. So other than a few sequences that do lag, the story in this one I quite like. I like the villains in this film. Obviously Largo being the main villain, I think he's quite a decent villain. Although, as I say, I do actually prefer the actor who plays him in Never Say Never Again. But I like Volpe as well, the female villain in this. I think she's got a bit of a nasty streak in her, and I like seeing that dark side of the female kind of variety in this film. I think she's one of the better early Bond villains, the kind of the more sidekick villain types, right, as opposed to the main villains. Interesting characters, pretty decent storyline, and some pretty jazzy action sequences, some nice fight scenes. There's a little bit of a dodgy bit towards the end where they've sped up this boat footage sequence, and the fight sequence on the boat is kind of half and half. It's like a good fight, but it's marred by the fact that stuff that's going on around it is just like really bad effects work, that just makes it look a bit hokey. It's a good film. I like the kind of subplot with Domino, and the way that her stuff ties in with the villain. So it just feels like there's a bit more there. There's a bit more meat on the bones with regards to the plot in this one. I think Connery does a pretty good job. He's on his A game in this one. There's nothing in it that kind of embarrasses him. You don't feel there's any moments where he's just like, oh no, I've got to dress as a Japanese man, anything like that. So it's a good solid Bond film. Again, not top tier stuff, but it's good solid stuff. Number 2 for me is Goldfinger. Now this is the Bond film that really kind of sealed the deal for many people. It put a lot of the things in place that became, you have to have them in all the Bond films, it became about the gadgets, about the women, about the villains and the sidekick villains. We got Odd Job, who's kind of this weird little villain with a gimmick. So from this point on, we do start getting these like little sidekick villains with various gimmicks and stuff. It's a good film. I like the way it's shot. I think it's one of the best efforts on the cinematography front with these early Bond films. I really like the look of this one. I think it's particularly well directed, and again, like I say, the villains are good. I feel that they're a genuine threat. When we see the famous sequence in which the woman on the bed has been painted in gold, that was an image that as a child always kind of haunted me. I remember seeing this as a child and just being really haunted by that image of this woman who'd been painted in gold, and just the sadistic nature of someone that would do that to another human being, which kind of, it really set up Goldfinger as someone who was a twisted villain and quite a threat to Bond. It's got many classic scenes in this film as well, the laser going towards the nads and all that. It's just... It's classy in in the best way that Bond can be. It's grown on me more over the years as well, I think. I don't think I liked it quite as much when I first reviewed it way back when on my channel. But yeah, it's like I've seen it a couple more times since, and it has gone up. It has dated a bit as well. You know, there's a few scenes that don't quite work just because, yeah, you know, 40, 50 years kind of does that to a movie. But yeah, Pussy Galore as well. She's a really great character, an older Bond woman, but yeah, proof that you don't have to go with the young ones all the time. She's quite a capable, sexy, strong female character, and she more than gives, yeah, as good as she gets to Bond. So yeah, Connery is having a bit of a whale of a time in this film, it seems. I think this is probably his best performance as Bond. I think he's really on his A game in this one. Everything just seems to come together quite well. So yeah, but it's not my favourite, as you can tell, because it was number 2. So that means obviously my number 1 is Dr. No. Now this is a film that, again, it has dated. It is obviously the first Bond film. A lot of the stuff that dates it is stuff like things that more the science fiction elements, like hosing them down for the radiation and stuff like that. Oh, you got a bit of radiation on you, let's hose you down. Okay, move along. Things like that date it quite considerably. But I like the story, and I like the villain. I really like the villain. I think Dr. No is a really great villain. I think the actor does an incredible job of portraying him. There's a real stillness about him that I find both creepy and menacing. And yeah, just there's quite a few villains in this as well, actually, and I like the coldness of Bond. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like that in a human being, but just for this character, like there's one moment when he dispenses with a goon, and he's just so cold about it. The way he just shoots him on the floor, and there's a toughness there. There's a dark edge that is bubbling away under the surface of this guy. So yeah, he's dangerous. I think Bond is dangerous in this. You know, that's the feeling that I get from Connery's performance and the way the character is portrayed. So yeah, for me, I like the story. I like the villains. I like the espionage element of it. I think this does it well. Whereas like From Russia with Love, kind of, it's really plodding. This, it's got a really good spy story to it. There's some investigative work that Bond has to do in order to get to the villain at the end. But it's interspersed with beats of action that keep it moving along nicely, keep it going, keep it interesting. So yeah, for that reason, it is my favourite of the Connery Bonds. I think it's definitely the best Connery Bond. I think there's a great argument to be made for Goldfinger. Obviously, it was my number 2. But for me personally, I've revisited Dr. No more times. I just like it a bit better. But that's it. That is how I would rank Sean Connery's Bond movies. But what about you? Please put your rankings down below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, do join me for my Roger Moore ranking. Obviously 7 films that he did as well. I will be going through them and putting them in order before we move on to the Pierce Brosnan years. So yeah, let me know what you think of my choices. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.